Welcome to the Rochester, New Hampshire History Podcast, a monthly show that will shine a light on a piece of history that has been all but forgotten.
After the December 7, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, most Americans were unified in wanting revenge against Japan.
A year has passed, and we do honor to our beloved dead who fell before the sneak Jap. We remember. Each of us gathered here today, safely sheltered. We remember the graves far away, nurses, soldiers, children of Pearl Harbor, stabbed in the back. But remembering is not enough. Hating is not enough. Sacrifices. Yes, no matter what. And what do they ask of us, the heroes we mourn? What do they ask of us, our marching sons across the seas? To stand shoulder to shoulder with them, here at home to do the job of forging the guns of vengeance. They're marching now. The rhythm of our marching boys thrills the world. Avenge December the 7th. On to victory. Everyone in this theater can know the personal pride and joy of taking part too. Sure, you've bought bonds and stamps. But when you buy this week, mark in your memory their bonds of vengeance. When you leave this theater, stop and remember that cruel morning just a year ago. Each day this week in motion picture theaters throughout the land, Americans are remembering with vengeance in their hearts. Tears, too. Why not? Bonds are our weapons. Stop on the way out. You want to say what's in your heart? Say it with bonds.
How did the citizens of Rochester react to the attack? By reading the local newspaper that was published after the attack, we can get a good understanding of what was going on in Rochester in those dark days at the beginning of the war.
Cold anger displaces shock at first news of Japanese attack. Anxious relatives scan news for word from sons in the Pacific. More than 20 men from Rochester and nearby communities with armed forces in war zone. Public safety committees call hurried meetings. Air wardens put on 24-hour duty. Ask more volunteer aides for fire, police auxiliary services. Fire Chief Gordon Cushing issued an appeal to all men not otherwise engaged in some form of defense work and who will be willing to volunteer their services as firemen to report to the Central Fire Station.
Recovering from the shock and amazement with which they learned the tragic news flashed across the Pacific Sunday afternoon, New Hampshire people turned grimly to the task of speeding the day when they can claim full revenge for the treacherous attack which plunged the nation suddenly into the seething cauldron of a world war. Plants guarded. Manufacturing plants throughout this area working on defense contracts acted promptly to guard against possible sabotage as a precautionary order was issued by the military. The Hubbard Shoe Company, working on Army shoe orders, installed additional floodlights around its East Rochester plant. Employees of William Chaplin Box Factory issued the following statement. In this time of great emergency, we have agreed to work all extra hours that William Chaplin may request of us in order to speed up production for national defense.
Chief Air Raid Warden Oliver Kidder of the Air Raid Protection Force said he was issuing a call for 250 additional volunteers to complete the coverage of every street and highway in the city. Rochester, first city in the state to test its protection against air raids, went about strengthening those defenses from experience gained in the blackout here 2 weeks ago. The city was designated as one of 13 reporting centers for air raid detection.
Sensing the importance of a thorough knowledge of first aid in the event of an emergency, additional first aid classes were organized in every town in this section, and one manufacturing plant arranged to have all its employees schooled in first aid and in air raid protection. Every citizen of the city of Rochester should be filled with calm confidence that our nation will, with God's help, achieve a righteous victory and a lasting peace. We must and will stand and work united to achieve that end. Let us not permit any considerations of creed, class, or clan to betray us into forgetting that united we stand.
It is evident that following the attack, the citizens of Rochester, regardless of political affiliation, were united as never before to win the war.
This ends the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, please email bobgriffinpodcast@gmail.com and come back next month for another episode of Rochester, New Hampshire History.